Please sit in a comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Put the attention on the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with that deep inner silence and become that silence. You are the silent witness. Now listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishtha. Book 5, Chapter 35, continuing with verse 41. Let these desires depart from me, for I have nothing to do with them, nor have they any concern with me. Alas, how all this time ignorance, my greatest enemy, has misled me to these desires. It is by the favor of Vishnu and by virtue of my pure Vaishnava faith rising in me of itself that my ignorance is now wholly dispelled from me, and the knowledge of the silent witness is revealed to me. My knowledge of truth has now driven me away all egoism from my mind. Just as they drive a spirit from its hiding place in the hollow of a tree, I'm now purified by mantra of divine knowledge. The tree of my body is now set free from egoism, which sat like a demon yaksha in it. My body has become a sacred tree, blooming with heavenly flowers and freed from the evils of ignorance, poverty, and vain wishes, which previously infested it. Loaded with the treasure of sacred knowledge, I find myself sitting here as one supremely rich, knowing all that is to be known. I see sights that are invisible to others. Now I have that in which nothing can be wanting and in which there is no want. It is by me, by any good, by my good fortune that I am freed from all evils and the venomous serpents of world's cares. My chill and frigid ignorance is melted down by the light of knowledge. The hot miracle of my desires is now under the cooling shade of the tranquility of my soul. It is by my glorification of God, my thanksgiving to Vishnu, my holy rites, and my divine knowledge and quietism that I have obtained by grace of my God a spacious room and elevated position in spirituality. I have that God in my spirit. I have seen and known him in his spiritual form. He is beyond my own ego, and I remember him always in this manner. I remember Vishnu as the Great Spirit, the eternal Brahman in his nature, while my selfish ego is confined like a snake in the holes of my organic frame, which is wholly the land of death. It is entangled in the bushes of its pricking desires, resembling prickly karanja ferns amidst the tumults of raging passions and 1,000 other disturbances of this world. It is placed amidst the conflagration of disasters, encircled by the flames of smart pain at all times. It is subject to continued ups and downs of fortune and repeated risings and fallings in its journey in this world. It has its repeated births and deaths owing to its interminable desires. Thus, I'm always deceived by this great enemy, my own egoism. The animal soul is powerless at night, as if caught in the clutches of a demon in the forest. So, while I am in this state of meditation, I feel deprived of its power and action. By grace of Vishnu, the light of my understanding is roused. I see my God by means of this light, and I lose sight of my demonic egoism. The sight of demonic egoism dwelling in the cavity of my mind disappears from my view in the same way as the shadows of darkness flies from the light of a lamp. And as the shade of night is dispersed by daylight. After a lighted lamp is extinguished, you do not know where its flame has fled. In the same way, when we see God before us, we do not know where our lordly egoism is hidden. My rich egoic egoism flies at the approach of reason. Just like a heavily loaded robber flies before the advance of daylight. Our false egoism vanishes like a demon at the rising of the true ego of God. My egoism being gone, I am set at ease like a tree freed from a poisonous snake rankling in its hollow cavity. When I am awakened to my spiritual light, I am at rest in my unconsciousness. In this world, I have escaped from the land of my captor and gained my permanent ascendancy over others. I have my internal equanimity, and I have allayed the mirage of my thirst after vainglory. I have bathed in the cold bath of rainwater, and I am pacified like a rock after the cooling of its conflagration. I am cleansed by my egoism, by my knowledge of the true meaning of the term. What is ignorance? And what are our pains and affliction? What are our evil desires? And what are our diseases and dangers? All these, with the ideas of heaven and liberation, together with the hope of heaven and the fear of hell, are only false conceptions proceeding from our egoism or selfishness. As a picture is drawn on a camera and not in empty air, so our thoughts depend upon our selfish principle and its want. As clear linen receives the yellow color of saffron, so the pure soul receives the image of God. Egoism weakens the soul with the irritable passions of the heart. like the inborn color of a dirty cloth, makes a good dye defective. Purity of the inner is like the clarity of the autumn sky. It is devoid of the cloudiness of egoism and the drizzling drops of desire. I bow down to you, O my innermost soul. Inmost that is a stream of bliss to me, with pure, clear waters amidst and without the dirt of egoism about you. I had you, O my soul, that is an ocean of joy to me, not infested by the sharks of sensual desires and undisturbed by the undersea fire of the latest and latent mind. I prostrate myself before you, O my living soul, that is a mountain of delight to me, without the hovering clouds of egoic passions or the wildfires of gross desires and desire. I bow to you, O silent witness in me, that is the heavenly lake Manasa to me, with blooming lotuses of delight and without the waves of cares and anxieties. I greet you, my silent witness, the internal spirit, floating in the shape of a swan on the lake of the mind of every individual, and resisting in the cavity of the crown lotus chakra. With your outstretched wings of consciousness and standing. All hail to you, O full and perfect silent witness. That is the individual and immortal soul, which in your several parts of the mind and senses is like the full moon containing all its desires in its entire self. Obeisance to the son of my consciousness, the silent witness, which is always in its ascendancy and dispels the darkness of my heart. My consciousness as the silent witness pervades everywhere, yet it is invisible or dimly seen by us. I bow to my intellectual light, which is the silent witness. Just like an oilless and wickless lamp of benign brightness that burns in full blaze within me. The silent witness is the enlightener of nature, yet quite still in its nature. Where my mind is heated by Kamadeva's fire, I cool it by the coolness of my cold and detached intellect. Just as they temper red hot iron with a cold, hard hammer. I am gaining my victory over all things by killing my egoism in the great ego, the silent witness, and by making my senses and mind destroy themselves. I bow to you, O all-subduing faith that crushes our ignorant doubt by your wisdom, that dispels unrealities by your knowledge of the reality, and removes our cravings by your contentedness. I exist solely as the silent witness, the inner transparent spirit. By killing my mind, by the great mind, by removing my egoism with the soul ego, and by driving the unrealities by the true reality. I place my body's reliance upon the moving principle of my soul without consciousness of my individual existence, my egoism or my mind and all its efforts and actions. At last I have obtained of its own accord and by the infinite grace of the Lord of all, the highest blessing of cold-heartedness and detachment in myself, by subsiding the demon of my ignorance and from disappearance of the demon of my egoism, I am now freed from the heat of my feverish passions. My false egoism has fled from the cage of my body by breaking its string of desires to which its feet were fast bound. I do not know where it has fled. I do not know where the bird of my egoism has flown from its nest in the tree of my body after blowing away its thick ignorance as dust. Ah, where is my egoism fled? With its body smeared with the dust and dirt of worldliness, and battered by the rocks of its desires that can never be satisfied. It is bitten by the deadly serpents of fears and dangers, and pierced in its heart by repeated disappointments and despair. Oh, wonder to think what I had been all this time, when I was bound fast by my egoism in the strong chain of my personality. I think I am a newborn being today, and to have become high-minded also by being removed from the thick cloud of egoism which has shrouded me all this time. I have seen and known and obtained this treasure of my soul as it is presented to my understanding by the verbal testimonies of the scriptures and by the light of inspiration in my hour of samadhi meditation. My mind is set at rest and released from the cares of the world like a fire that is extinguished. It is released from all other thoughts and desires and the arrow of egoism. I am now set free from my affections and passions and all delights of the world, and also my craving after them. I have passed over the impassable ocean of dangers and difficulties and the intolerable evils of my reincarnation by the disappearance of my internal darkness and the sight of the one great God in my consciousness. Chapter 36. Prahlad's hymn to the soul. Prahlad continued. I thank you, O Lord and Great Spirit, who is beyond all things and is found in myself by my good fortune. Except you, O my Lord, I have no other friend in the three worlds who embraces and looks upon me when I pray to you. It is you who preserves and destroys all, and who gives all things to everybody. It is you who makes it move and work and praise your holy name. Now you are found and seen by me, and now you go away from me. You fill all beings in the world with your essence. You are present in all places. But where have you fled and gone from me? Great is the distance between us, even as the distance of the places of our birth. It is my good fortune, O friend, that has brought you near me today and presented you to my sight. I hail you, O blissful one, who is the maker and preserver. I think you are the stalk of this fruit of the world, and you are the eternal and pure soul of all. I thank the holder of the lotus and discus, and you also who bears the crescent half moon on your forehead, the great Shiva. I thank the Lord of gods, Indra, and also Brahma, who is born of the lotus. Use of words makes a distinction between you and ourselves, but this is a false impression, like that between waves and their element water. You know yourself in the shape of the endless varieties of being. Existence and extinction are your two states from all eternity. I thank you, who is the creator and beholder of all, and who manifests immeasurable forms. I thank you, who is the whole nature of yourself. I have undergone many tribulations in the course of past lives. By your will, I became deprived of my strength, and at last was burnt away. I have seen luminous worlds and observed many visible and invisible things, but you are not to be found in them. So I gained nothing. All things composed of earth, stone, and wood are formations of water. There is nothing here that is permanent, O God, besides yourself. You being obtained, there is nothing else to desire. I thank you, Lord, my silent witness, who is obtained and seen and known by me this day, and who shall be preserved by me and never obliterated from my mind. Your bright form, interwoven by the rays of light, is visible to us by inverting our sight into the inmost recesses of our heart. As the feeling of heat and cold is perceived by touch, and as fragrance of the flower is felt in the oil with which it is mixed, so I feel your presence by your coming in contact with my heart. As the sound of music enters into the heart through the ears and makes the heartstrings thrill and the hairs of the body stand on end, so is your presence perceived in our hearts also. Now let us continue established as the silent witness and perform Trimana Sanyama on the esoteric Maha Mantra to balance all karmic traces that have been touched by today's reading. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Jai Gurudev.